All eyes are on Texas as we hit the Lone Star State for this edition of Coffee and Curveballs. Cory McCartney and Shooter Hunt with you as always, and we welcome in Prep Baseball Texas's Brandon Gowins. Brandon, good to have you in.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Brandon, we begin with the jam-packed spring break tourneys. I mean, really an event unlike almost anything in the country, and it appears clear that Flower Mound and Pearland, two teams that both appeared in the top 25 of Prep Baseball's national high school rankings, are on a collision course.
Absolutely. Tournament season down here is a little different. It's 6 games a weekend in 3 days. So it's not just the top guys. You also see what programs have depth. And Flower Mound and Pearland played for the state title last year at the 6A level with Flower Mound taking that title. And after seeing both of them this weekend, they both are loaded and look poised to meet again. They actually play Thursday down in Houston. I'm going to head down to it, but Flower Mound's got 6 seniors, all committed, with 3 of them being SEC commits, and then Pearland lost an SEC commit on the mound, but still has Nico Partita, 2 Rice commits, and a McLennan signee all in the senior class.
And I love the Texas spring break tournaments because you get to see so much, but it's not so much about the wins and losses as much as how does the team look on the field. Coaches are trying to figure out their lineups, get everybody ready for district play. But you talk about Flower Mound and Pearland. This is Houston versus Dallas. There's a huge rivalry there. So it'll be fun for you to see them this week. But Nico Partita, who's an absolute baller, just goes out there, and we talk about some guys who might have some bigger tools than him, but you put them head to head, Nico Partita is just not going to lose. So he's a guy that can carry a team. He did it last year, and he's one that the whole country should know about right now. But they're not alone. Austin Westlake out of the Austin area is also a big time team, number 3 in your rankings. And they're led by Theo Gillen, who was a big draft name, had some injuries in the past. But what's Theo been up to recently?
Finding a lot of barrel recently, and not just all the backside doubles and everything we've grown accustomed to. He's really gotten into the pull side power, and he had a 2 home run game recently, which is something that we've all been waiting for, knowing it's there. And it's still an elite runner. The arm looks better at short. And then what's really helped them is Jack Brady and Chance Covert returned from last year, and they were really good. But this year they're both in the low 90s now and showing a velo jump, which, when it gets to postseason time, having that swing and miss stuff really is important.
It is an absolute gauntlet there in Texas. So new teams are popping up, but Prosper is one of those teams that started off not as highly ranked, and I think you're starting to climb them up your board in the Power 30 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They snuck in at 30, and they're 11-1 now, and they've played a good schedule. They're led by Prep Baseball American junior Luke Billings, who kind of a lot like Nico Partita. The sum of all his parts makes him one of the best winners in the state. Been up to 93, shown some power at the plate, and also he's really refined his catching skills behind the dish, which was a big goal of his in the offseason.
And then you got Preston Wood behind Xavier Mitchell, a Future Games alumni.
Absolutely. Prestonwood, I think this year has solidified himself as a top private school in Texas. Coach Valade has that program built from seniors all the way down to freshmen. X is, like I said, a future gamer, up into the low 90s now, swing and miss stuff. Coach Valade's son, Trent, has really taken off this year. A lot more physical. His fastball's in the 90s. And then they have the 2 super freshmen, our number 1 player in the country, Lash Henderson, and then Max Bachman has really stepped up this year, and he was a JFGer last year, and he's rising up our rankings right now.
Yeah, I think the 2 of them being freshmen so early, getting that playing time in that program with Coach Valet doing such a good job with the development, they're going to push each other, which is what I love about the fact that Lash Henderson has that huge high upside, but Max Bachman simply can really swing the bat. So I'm excited to see both of them this summer. That program's in a great place moving forward. But I also got to see Tomball last week, and I know you like Tomball, BG.
Yeah, I mean, the Tomball program has talent littered in every class. Obviously, Kate Aaron-Beatty's the headliner there. Big draft prospect, somebody you've been following for a couple of years. but it's the sophomore class that I just don't know if there's a more talented sophomore class in the state, which I know you got to see a handful of them last week.
Yeah, and if it's in the state, that means it's in the country. So that
Yeah.
top sophomore class, beyond just Cade Arambide, he's kind of teaching them the ropes. He was pressing a little bit when I got to see him, but finally broke out with a big home run late Friday night against Willis. Was a very awesome atmosphere there at Willis High School. Great job, fans, concessions, everybody. But Arambide is an absolute difference maker behind the plate. Nobody's stealing on him. It's a near 80 arm. So he'll have a chance to get drafted. I see him more as a 2-3 right now, second, third rounder. But it's a really impressive arm behind the dish. But those softs, CJ Sampson, Carson Reeder, Catcher Hopkins, and then a sleeper Harper Gates, who I think might have the highest upside of all of them. They're outstanding. CJ Sampson was a guy I saw on the mound. I think that left-handed stick really plays. It's a power bat. I think that's going to carry him moving forward. Carson Reeder, uber athletic. He hit in the middle of the order for Tom Ball. He had a home run for me. It was an absolute tank. But hops on the mound, 86-90, good feel for spin. I think the adjustments that he's going to be able to make give him a huge upside, even just over the next year as he comes into his own, grows into a frame. Catcher Hopkins, I'm texting you while I'm at the game saying this kid just has an unreal frame. Great athleticism, played the right field, runs well, switch hitter, can do it all. And then the aforementioned Harper Gates, who's playing third base, really moves well. He's a dynamic athlete up there, swing works, also up the 90 on the bump. I think he's got huge upside. And I think college coaches, that's the name you really want to circle. All four of these guys, really. But Harper Gates has a chance to do some big things.
Hey, CJ Sampson, got to watch him spin a no-hitter this past summer at Lake Point Sports. So as we focus on what to watch for this spring, Brandon, tell us why all eyes should be on Texas A&M signee Wyatt Sanford, who, again, a Future Games alumni and a top 10 shortstop in the nation.
Yeah, we've always been a big fan of Wyatt here in Texas, and he's been in our top 10, fluctuated up and down, kind of depending on where the hit tool was at. And I actually texted Wyatt before we hopped on just because the physicality has really jumped out early this spring, and asked him how much weight he's put on. And he's put on 15 to 20 pounds, he said, and it is obvious. And it's really unleashed, I think, the hit tool. He doesn't have to work so hard to generate the juice he's looking for. And he's developed some pull side power, gone yard a few times, and then he's already an elite defender, and that was always a given, and nothing's changed there.
It's one of the big things coming out of the early spring so far that has led him to become the #1 prospect in the state of Texas. He's moving up our draft board as well. But that physicality that you talk about is something where you're going through as a scout and you're looking at the projection. What will come of this? And why it's always had that wiry athletic frame, thin. Is he going to come into his own here? The fact that it's happened this early throughout his senior year may rise him up some draft boards in a hurry. I think you may start hearing some even bigger helium than we're going to be rolling out here in short time. But plus defender, left-handed stick, that physicality there, he's going to hit for power, gap to gap, and he's a plus runner. So he's got all the ingredients of a big-time draft prospect coming out of that Dallas area. But I also got to see Braylon Payne in Houston, who's another one. We had sleeper, dark horse, potential first rounder. I'd put him more in the 35 to 50 range, had him 3.95 down the line on a full swing. There's still some rawness to it, but he is as good of a high school outfielder as I've seen since Pete Crow Armstrong back in 2020, who was a first rounder to the Mets back then out of Southern California. He can go get it, but it's not just the athleticism, the fact that he's an 80 runner. He has crisp attention to detail with his routes. So one of the rare feats of being in a short window to watch guys, 2 games, I saw him have almost 10 chances in the outfield, whether it was throwing, he's got a plus arm, the accuracy's there, the makeup, all the stuff that he did pregame to get himself ready. When it comes down to it, is he going to be able to hit? What is that upside at the plate? That's what teams are going to be looking at most. I think it's definitely going to be there over time. You give him 1,000 at bats, 1,500 at bats. What does he become of this? Because you know he's going to defend, and that speed is a weapon, and he utilizes it well. He had 5 stolen bases in one of the games that I saw. But that's just one of the draft guys. Those are the top 2 on our board right now for you out of Texas. But I know Dason Hill was an All-American you've seen recently.
Yeah, Dason has always been on our radar for the last 2 years, and the velo We heard whispers it was coming, and then I went out a couple weeks ago to his last scrimmage, and it was up to 95, with the ability to still spin it, which is something we've always loved about him. It's a 6'5" frame, very projectable. He goes out to Midland last week, goes out to West Texas, and from all accounts had an absolute electric outing where depending who you hear, the velos were up 96, 97. So it was a really big time performance. So he heads back to Dallas this week, and excited to see him again.
It's been a long time coming for us who loved Jason for so long and just kind of bet on the way the arm works, the athlete, but even more so at the All-American game, the makeup and the inner confidence that he has. I think that's going to help him. He's very left-handed, can spin the baseball with that frame. I got to see Kason Evans, who's an LSU recruit out of the Houston area, St. Pius X. It's a really good athlete. He's a 2A, hits in the 3-hole. The velocity was a little bit down from what we saw over the summer, and especially the spin rates were down about 200 RPM. So maybe just getting himself into shape there. But there's a chance to be a plus split finger pitch. What I love about that splitty is the fact that he has been throwing it for a long time. I've well documented from his freshman year. So there's some innate confidence in that. It's only going to get better because he has the ability to tweak it a little bit. And then the breaking ball can drop it in for the strike. 3 pitches for a strike. He was up to 93 in my look. I'd expect that to climb as the weather gets warmer. He gets in better shape on the bump. But future starter. So it's a lot to like about his athleticism, but he's not the only arm in the state of Texas. There's a couple more right-handers. Brandon, why don't you tell us about Jason Flores and Braden Bergman?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Flores and Bergman have kind of established themselves as the top 2 righties in North Texas. Flores is a Texas recruit, physical build, another 2-way athlete. It's been up to 95 early. And what makes him intriguing is he has 2 legitimate fastballs. He also throws a sinker that has plus potential. Feel for spin. Obviously, it's more control over command right now, but it's a durable righty that could log some innings in the future. And Bergman, he had his first outing the other day. It was up to 95. I think as the spring goes on, we may be on 100 watts. He got up to 98 in the fall. And so as he gets more in game shape, there's a chance for him to really push the velocity.
Yeah, Texas pitching rich, and as you just heard, there are some serious contenders for the throne when it comes to the state's best pitching prospect. But when it comes to the 2026s, the number 3 player in the class overall, you got TCU commit Grady Emerson, 2 more top 10s with Chandler Hart and Trey Rangel. Brandon, that's just the beginning. How good is this 2026 class?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been telling people that this 2026 class has a chance to rival the 2019 class in Texas, which was headlined by Bobby Witt Jr. and Brett Beatty. So I'm not putting that on anybody yet, but with Emerson, you have a true 5-tool potential left-handed hitting shortstop who's really developing into some power this year. And then you have Chandler Hart and Trey Rangel, who in most years would be the number 1 prospect in the state. Chandler's a 6'5" lefty who's in the low 90s, and then Rangel can get up to 94, 95 and spin 3,000 breaking balls. So that's just the top 3. And there's, like Shooter already talked about, the Tomball sophomore quartet, and that it's up and down the state.
Yeah, you took Judd Dowell at Lamar there in the Houston area. I think you have 8 or 9 guys in the top 50 nationally, but Grady Emerson, just almost like a throwback. Dude flat out rakes from the left side. So that barrel awareness, the hit power potential is something to get excited about him already. And then the big arm of Chandler Hart, who's going to be up in the mid-90s probably by this summer from the left side. Still hitting in the middle of that Allen lineup there. That athleticism's there. I think he's the youngest brother in his family, so he's been punching up for a while. And then Trey Brango, who, like you just said, it's just absolute electricity. He was the same way at the future games and throughout the summer. And it really goes on. I got to see some uncommitted guys while in Houston, like Bryce Krennick, big lefty, was up 88 with a nice slider, 3-pitch mix, and a few other uncommitted guys who hopefully we may see at the future games at the end of the summer.
Yeah, I have a feeling this future game roster may be pretty special this summer.
No pressure at all, Brandon. Some fantastic stuff happening in Texas for sure, man. Appreciate it, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.